I've got another question for you on entitlement. So, is it entitlement if a grandparent wants to see their grandchildren?
That's so loaded. Like it
Yeah.
really depends. I think that there's no yes or no answer. It's case by case, similar to estrangement. Like if I if, say my mom raised from the dead and I had a child and she was demanding to see it, I would just be like, "Well, you crazy lady, absolutely not." Like for one, like let's say she never had passed away in the first place and we were still estranged. We don't have a relationship and I don't know how you're going to be around my child. But say it's like my stepmom and I'm just doing it out of spite, then yeah, she absolutely has an entitlement to see my child because she's been there. Sure, we butted heads and I was an absolutely nightmarish teenager to deal with for her. So like I think that it's just so situational based and like there's no right answer to give in this.
I agree. Aaliyah, what do you think?
Yeah, it is. It's really hard because you don't know what that of course as a as a grandparent, you're like, yeah, I want to see my grandkids. I have a right to see my grandkids, but at the same time, your child has a right to protect their kids in whatever way that they feel is right. So if they feel like they're protecting them from not having a relationship with you, then that's their choice.
Dr. Ruth?
Well, as a grandparent who's not seeing grandchildren, um, that is a loaded question. I I can see both sides now. I couldn't before. Sorry. Been sick. Um, because I went to court to try to see him. And didn't get visitation. Sorry. I'm gonna have to cough and take a drink. Oh,
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, I'm in the middle of this too, and it's tough. And anytime, and Dr. Ruth will come back. So anytime somebody in the community, a grandparent talks about missing their grandkids, I mean, I see the anguish. I feel the anguish and how difficult that is. And I don't have grandkids, so it's probably easy for me, but I do see both sides of it. I see in the situation of abuse, of course you're like, no, you're not taking care of my kids. But 99.9% of children feel like they're going to be a better parent than they were parented. I mean, we all thought we were going to do a better job than our parents did. And they might be one of the best resources for your grandkids, especially in this day and time when anyone you hire is prisoner to their phone. There was a news, this was on the news, it just came to my mind, but there was a nanny that lived in a high rise with a family. And she gets on the elevator with this 2-year-old little girl that she was taking care of, and she was on her phone the whole time. Well, she gets off the elevator, the little girl stays on, and she doesn't even realize it. The little girl is taken up to the penthouse that's unfinished, and she falls to her death. It just situations like that, just in this day and age, I don't know who you trust to take care of your children more than I think a grandparent. Again, if they weren't abused or in a situation like that, we're not talking about those extreme situations, the
I just
trauma.
don't think I'd trust it. Like that it goes back to what we've talked about in the past of like, yeah, sure, you could say these things and like it's with any relationship. These things that you're saying are nice, but there needs to be actions and like proof behind it. And if it's my child, I am like I don't have one, so I can't speak from experience. But from what people say about having children and how much they love them, I don't think that I could fathom putting my child through the abuse that I went through. So I don't think I could ever trust that child alone with my estranged parent. Just simply because, like, in the back of my mind, it would always be like, God, I hope they're not going through that right now. Like, I couldn't even go to the store and do that in my own personal opinion. Like, putting myself in this hypothetical, I think if I were to want to protect my child, I don't think that I could trust the fact that they wouldn't do the same cycle over and over again.
Okay.
I think that makes sense. But I think the majority of parents, I just don't think we're talking about being in that type of abusive situation. But Dr. Ruth, can you talk?
Yeah, I'm going to try to talk again, but sorry. Um, this could be a whole nother roundtable discussion, because there's a lot to it. I totally get Jillian's viewpoint. And in a situation like that, I wouldn't want my child either to see, if I had been raised by an abusive mother, I wouldn't want her to be alone with my child either. Um, and the thing is, like, my daughter wasn't abused. Um, I have other grandkids, step grandkids, that their mom and dad are fine with me being with them, and my nieces are fine with me being with their kids. I have a niece that has 2 children, and she's fine with me being with her kids. What I worry about is that I had a relationship with them, and then all of a sudden I'm not in the picture, and I don't know what they think happened. So I worry about that event, and that is trauma for them. If they had a relationship, any grandchild that has a relationship with a grandparent and it's a good relationship, that's traumatic for that child to either think they've been abandoned or rejected, or the grandparent has died when they haven't. That's a big loss for that grandchild, and that was the biggest, hardest thing for me to think about and accept. And I'm still concerned about the impact of that. um yeah, I still am concerned. That's my biggest concern, and that's why I went to court. Was because I wanted them to know they mattered. I didn't know what was being said, and I wanted to try to be able to continue that relationship for them to not have a negative impact about my relationship with my daughter. That was a different relationship. I could have kept that separate. But what's happened's happened. We'll see. We'll see. I may never see him again. I've accepted that I might not. I don't have expectations of anything. It's hard. There's a lot to it. It's very different having the estrangement from an adult child than it is having the loss of that relationship with the grandchild. It's completely different.